Recorded Books presents Chill, a transformative guide to renew your body and mind. The Cold Water Swim Cure by Dr. Mark Harper, MD, PhD. Narrated by the author. Author's note. In 1760, more than 2 centuries before I first dipped my toes in the frigid waters off Brighton, Dr. Richard Russell, a renowned physician, published his famous dissertation on the use of seawater in the diseases of the glands, particularly the scurvy, jaundice, king's evil, leprosy, and the glandular consumption. As part of his prescription, Dr. Russell recommended patients regularly swim in the ocean and, post-swim, drink pints of seawater mixed with an oxymel of squills, an effective purgative. While most of Dr. Russell's claims may be somewhat overambitious, and admittedly rather unpalatable, I have no doubt he observed in his research and his treatment regimens real positive effects. I have witnessed similar effects. Since Dr. Russell's prime, our knowledge of physiology has advanced considerably. We can now explain, for instance, his observations about swimming in open water, particularly in water below 68 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 degrees centigrade. We also know more about what happens to the body when it's exposed to cold water, how the body adapts to the stress of cold water over time, and how regular cold water swimming can help people cope with the ill effects of modern life, from chronic pain and osteoarthritis to migraines, depression, and anxiety. Of course, I don't suggest that sea bathing has all the benefits Dr. Russell described, nor do I recommend following his radical regime of bloodletting and ingesting seawater alongside a tincture of ipecacuanha, an emetic, cardious water, squill, spodium, raw egg yolk with the foam of the white, cinnamon and sugar candy. To be honest, I can't promise that cold water swimming is a definitive cure for any particular symptom or ailment, no matter how many hours someone logs in the water. Unlike Dr. Russell, I do not believe swimming in cold water alone is some kind of universal cure. That said, scientific evidence and first-person accounts show that cold water swimming is an effective therapeutic when practiced with other forms of medical interventions and consistent changes in lifestyle habits, for which it may be the catalyst. I provide that evidence and those stories which clearly demonstrate the very real, life-changing health effects of regular dips in temperate to frigid waters. The reason for this is that cold water swimming combines a number of the best and most effective aspects of preventative medicine and, more importantly, healthy living. Cold water swimming results in immediate and sustainable improvements in overall health and general well-being across 3 essential categories: reorientation, transformation, and connection. Cold water swimmers report an overall improvement in both their physical and mental health. This includes reductions in blood pressure, inflammation, and chronic pain levels, as well as weight loss, better sleep, and more engaged and optimistic outlook. There are additional knock-on benefits that include greater resilience and a more substantial place within the community, which reduces social isolation and provides a shared sense of caring and belonging. Cold water swimming enhances personal autonomy, encourages personal achievement, and is an opportunity to spend time outdoors, which, in itself, improves our overall well-being. Plus, importantly, it's fun. All of this provides a significant boost to our system and lets us reboot our body and mind, which is the first step to feeling revitalized and refreshed, and consequently enjoying a healthier and more satisfying life. I have divided the book into 3 parts. In part 1, the transformative power of water, I explain in everyday language how cold water swimming improves general well-being, including the science of cold water immersion and cold water adaptation. In part 2, the cold water swim protocol, I provide advice for cold water swimming itself. This includes making a plan, finding companions, and having the proper kit, but, most of all, how to do it, getting in and getting out, getting wet and getting blessedly dry and warm. In part 3, The Cold Water Swim Cure, I provide inspiring first-person accounts of how a consistent cold water swimming practice has improved the symptoms of a range of mental and physical illnesses such as depression and trauma, chronic pain, migraines, fibromyalgia, and autoimmune diseases. Now, if you're ready to take the plunge, let's dive in. Part 1. The Transformative Power of Water. Chapter 1. That's funny. My cold water epiphanies. I've always swum. For several summers as a young man, I worked as a lifeguard on the beaches of Brighton. Fortunately, the swimmers I was charged with protecting rarely got into real difficulty. In fact, I never once had to venture into the surf, largely because back in the 1980s, neither I nor many of my fellow countrymen and women seemed to have any inclination to set foot in the cold water. As I grew older and progressed through my career in medicine, I continued to train in the swimming pools of London. After finishing my postgraduate training in anaesthesia, I returned to Brighton for a consultant post in 2003, which is when I started training with Brighton Swimming Club, the oldest such club in England. Happily, I took full advantage of their heated pool, which was open all year save for 2 weeks every summer. After hearing me moan about this minor inconvenience, my old friend Jasper suggested I join the club's sea swimming group that swam in the English Channel. To my considerable surprise, year-round, regardless of the temperature. Confident in my abilities and not in the slightest bit worried about being out of my literal and figurative depths, I was, nevertheless, apprehensive about swimming in the cold water. I was accustomed to swimming in heated pools, and I knew how cold the sea was, having regularly participated, somewhat reluctantly, in the club's annual peer-to-peer race. Nevertheless, one morning in August 2004, I joined a dozen or so compatriots and steeled myself for what I knew was coming. The glorious evocative lines in Iris Murdoch's novel The Sea came to my mind as I approached the water's edge. Trembling with emotion, I tore my clothes off and walked into the sea. The cold shock, then the warmth, then the strong, gentle, lifting motion of the quiet waves reminded me of happiness. Fortunately, I didn't need to tear off my clothes. We had a rather grim but effective changing room. But the progression of emotions and sensations Murdoch describes were spot on. First, before I could enjoy the strong, gentle lifting motion of the quiet waves, let alone the warmth or happiness, I had to endure the very real shock of the cold. There's no way around it. Getting into cold water is a shock and a stress. Rather than a detriment, however, although I didn't realise it at the time, this immediate sensation and deeply felt physiological effect is exactly why cold water swimming and other forms of cold immersion therapies are so incredibly effective in reducing symptoms and complications of chronic and acute physical and mental conditions. Stepping into cold water, you feel the cold engulf every inch of your body, from the soles of your feet to the tip of your nose. At water temperatures of 68 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 degrees centigrade, the skin vasoconstricts maximally, which is a fancy way of saying the blood vessels that run in our skin completely shut down to insulate the body from the cold. At the same time, stepping into cold water accelerates our heart rate and raises our blood pressure, thanks to the secretion of adrenaline and noradrenaline into our bloodstream. Cold water also has a dramatic effect on breathing in those not used to it. First, it stimulates a large, involuntary, inspiratory gasp. Anyone who has jumped into cold water, whether by accident or on purpose, has experienced the sharp inhale of breath that occurs reflexively upon submersion. This gasp is followed by rapid breathing or hyperventilation, which is impossible to override even for swimmers who are steeled for it. The consequent stretching of the heart chambers, notably the atria, results in the release of a hormone called atrial natriuretic peptide.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.